All right. Well, another podcast. I haven't done one of these in fucking forever. So, bear with me if I'm sloppy with it. But today got Ben from Creator-Destructor Records, Bay Area's finest. If this dude has put out a lot of like the records that were most formative for me, I would say, in getting into hardcore as someone who is newer to hardcore. Gulch's first record, a bunch of Tsunami's first stuff, Scalp's debut album. If you don't know the bands that he's put out, go check out the Creator-Destructor website and you'll get the lowdown on everything he's put out. But thank you again for doing the interview, man.
Dude, thank you. Thanks for coming from Santa Cruz to Oakland. I appreciate it.
No problem,
to
man.
my luxurious, estate here.
Yeah, the little storage unit we got here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could get started off, I guess, with a little introduction, like where are you from, and like kind of some background on you. Get some insight.
Yeah, totally. Oh, real quick though, dude. Props to you for everything you do with Naughty Pelican. It's awesome. Like truly documenting everything. Like that shit's important and it's rad. You know.
Thanks, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's again just something I do for fun and.
Yeah.
I don't know, just a fun little side thing that I do.
It's awesome, man. I love the clips and like that. You know, those clips turn people onto these bands, so it's badass.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
that a lot.
But okay, sorry. What'd you say? Where am I from? All that.
Where
stuff?
you from?
Yeah,
Just some background on you, and what got you into this shit.
Totally. Yeah. I grew up in the peninsula, in the Bay Area, in the West Bay, and I got into punk and hardcore from like my older brother, 3 years older, and when I was about 10, got into all the East Bay stuff like AFI and the Nerve Agents and all those bands, and went to those shows a lot, and then kind of found hardcore through Bridge 9.
Okay, nice.
And a lot of those bands at the time, the early 2000s, Hope Conspiracy, American Nightmare, Converge, Panic, all these bands. I don't know if Converge ever did anything on Bridge 9. I think they did. But regardless, that whole scene, that kind of Northeast scene.
Gotcha.
Shai Hulud, all that stuff. I got really into all that. And from there, really got into metal. And,
okay, nice.
And always, loved hardcore through and through. But I fell really in love with metal and started a melodic death metal band called Light This City.
Okay.
And that was my main kind of thing for years. Yeah, it was a band that sounded like, In Flames and Darkest Hour.
Yeah, totally.
Black Dahlia and stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we toured a lot for years, did that through high school and afterwards for a few years. And then started a punk, but when that band broke up, started a punk band called Heart Sounds. And me and the singer of Light the City, Laura, who's like my best friend, we started that band, signed to Epitaph, and then put out a couple records with them. And the band lasted like 8 years. So we put out 4 records and ended in 2017, and now I play in the band of Wilhelm Scream.
Yep.
Who are on the label, and I play in a band called Darkness Everywhere.
Oh, nice. I didn't know you played in that band.
Oh yeah. I
That's awesome.
And play guitar.
That's dope.
Yeah. So that kind of sounds like darker Light the City. Right back to the At the Gate stuff and Dark Tranquility shit. So that's kind of my musical history. But I started the label in 2006.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a senior in high school. And, dude, if that's loud, we can close that all the way, though. Should I close the door all the way, just in case?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. All right. 1 second.
We'll cut this.
Remember, it's a storage space.
Hey, it's all good, man. Dude, I used to do this shit with like just the room audio and stuff. That would have been so bad. But I think with the mics, it's
with the
all
mics,
good.
it'll be fine. Leave it all in. Make it natural,
Totally.
But no. So I started the label in 2006, putting out metal bands that I knew, like this band, The Funeral Pyre. From LA and a bunch of metal stuff, and then just kept putting stuff out.
And that's always just been like Bay Area stuff.
No, I put out bands from all over. Like I heavily focus on the Bay because it's just where I'm from, and my friend groups and social circle, and there's amazing bands from the Bay. There's so many, but back then it wasn't so much. I some Cali bands, but East Coast bands. But yeah. I'm forgetting some. I'm sure there are more Bay Area bands. I'm just forgetting. But yeah, it didn't really start as like I'm going to start a Bay Area label. It was just like I was just trying to find whatever was sick, and that was back in like the MySpace days. So.
Why did you decide to start a label? I guess because I mean, I don't think that's most people's first inclination when getting into music and stuff like that, or one of their first inclinations is to start a label because it's a lot of fucking work and shit like that. But
Totally.
so why did you exactly start the label? What was the
Um,
reason or the driving force behind that?
Yeah, I was like 18, and Light This City, that band, had signed a. Dude, I love it. The
Dude,
hip hop
it's all
blasting right
good.
outside.
I doubt these fuckers can hear it.
No, it'll be fine. But I'm enjoying it. It's nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice soundtrack. But anyways, so I was 18, and Light the City had signed to Prosthetic Records, who at the time were like, putting out Lamb of God and all our mains,
Yeah.
Gojira and shit. So that was a huge break for us. We signed when I was 15 years old. Like my parents had to sign the contract with me.
That's
legally.
gnarly.
Yeah. So, but I think in high school we had like a senior project where you could like go, do something, like work for someone or something. And EJ from Prosthetic, who's still a great buddy, and I love the guy. He let me, when I was like a junior in high school, come like intern at the label for a week. And it was just badass. I was like, this is sick. I was like, I could totally do this, like in my personality, I think fits it. So yeah, I just decided to start one. And, I wasn't doing vinyl for the first 6 releases. I didn't do that until the first Heart Sounds record. But yeah, I just made CDs, like low runs, like low investment,
Yeah, totally.
like if I had $1,000 or something, I could put out a release, you know what I mean? And just build slowly. So just kind of started from there. But yeah, Prosthetic Records is responsible because I was just like, this is cool, man. Like everyone's just listening to metal all day. And
Yeah, totally.
you know
It's
what I mean?
dope.
Like going to shows at night, like this rules.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool.
How often back then would you see like, I guess, a return on investment for bands? Were you just like losing money just like left
Oh
and
my
right?
God. Yeah. Left and right. But luckily the overhead for CDs, like as a lot of people know, is so low. And the markup is so high that even without being a dick about it, like you could charge $10 for a CD and, no one's looking at you sideways. But no, because, it's like if I made 250 CDs and I sold like 50 of them, you're kind of like breaking even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even
So,
then, yeah.
yeah, but don't get me wrong. Like, I'm up to almost 90 releases.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's been throwing darts at the board the whole time. Like some you invest a lot into, the band breaks up the week of the release. Like I've seen everything, and so there's definite releases where you just you scrap it as a lot, not scrap it, but in your head you're like chalk it up to a loss, onto the next one. And no matter how sick the record is or how great the band is or all that stuff, some things don't hit, some things don't connect. So there's been plenty of that throughout the years.
So it's always just like a roll of the dice type shit.
Totally. And but I always knew from a young age, because I would study other labels. I'm like, the currency of a label is like output. Like you got to keep releasing stuff, like to build a following as a label.
Yeah, 100%.
And that was a lot harder back in the day because there weren't as many bands, let alone good bands.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
There's so many sick bands.
Well, also, like, I think the entity that is social media and all that shit is just, it's so much easier to just grow any business or band or brand or any of that bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. And, like the trade-offs with like, bands made more money back then because of, physical product and, before streaming and all that. Granted, there was Napster and all that, but it wasn't like today where, there's such a small percentage of the scene. Well, I shouldn't say the scene of people who listen to music. There's such a small percentage of people who buy it.
Yeah,
so
totally.
it's like, but back then there was more, but these days you get instant, access to your fans.
Feedback,
you get all these perks. So it's trade-offs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, actually, this kind of leads me into a good question that I had was, in a time period when the internet is so prevalent and anybody can blow up on the internet, how important would you say that labels, and more so independent labels, are to hardcore or metal scenes now as opposed to back in the day? Do you think they play as big of a role now, or do you think they're a little less relevant to, scenes and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've actually thought about that a lot, but like I think it's, I don't know if I'm in my head about it, but I think there's ebbs and flows to those things, and I feel like when I got into punk rock and hardcore, it was like labels were like tastemakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, Bridge 9, even Fat Records and Epitaph, like you paid attention to everything they put out, whether you liked it or not. But there was a high percentage you would like it, or a big likelihood, because they knew who they were targeting. They knew who their fans were, etc. And the music industry was in a good place, and I feel like labels could afford to like put out more of what they liked. Whereas a lot of labels these days just want to put out what sells.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking that. I get it. It's hard out there. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And you know, you could totally tell when labels are doing that. And that's cool too. You know what I mean? But I think it's swung back to this thing where, you know, people pay attention to labels and they're fans of labels and they wear label merch and they see it as an important kind of collective that bring bands not out of obscurity but into a bigger audience. You know what I mean? That's kind of the value of a label. And obviously all the things of like distribution, you know, making everything and
the practical
selling,
side of things,
all the logistics, taking care of all that. You know, it's also like a platform for bands. There's statuses to labels, like, you know, a band signing to a label or whatever. It's like it's seen as a big step up no matter what the label is, and you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a lot of value to it. That's not to say that bands with hype and with social media that they can't just do everything themselves. Yeah. Because to a point, the bigger you get, it's like the busier you get, and you're not really going to have time to work out distribution of your LP.
You got to delegate certain things to people.
You're just too busy. Yeah. And a lot of bands don't have a person in it that wants to deal with that shit. Some do. But a lot don't. A lot of bands just want to play and have fun and rip.
Understandably
tour.
so.
Totally. And so a band can get huge on their own, but you know, there's usually a few other people involved, like regardless, you know what I mean? Like, or there has to be after a certain point.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much work.
Exactly.
I feel like. So yeah. And you know, again, there's benefits to labels, but that's not to say like even someone who runs a label, like, I'm not against bands self-releasing shit. I think it's awesome, especially the bigger you get. I would like encourage it, but again, you have to have your own team. It doesn't have to be a label, but you have to have, you know, someone taking care of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Was there ever a point on Creator-Destructor where you could noticeably see like a turning point of like, oh, people are starting to buy more of the stuff that I'm putting out? Because I know that you've obviously put out some like really notable modern hardcore records and EPs and stuff like that. But was there a point before, like, I mean, with Gulch's stuff and Tsunami stuff, obviously those sell really well. But was there a point before that where Creator-Destructor was starting to, you were going from, oh yeah, you know, rolling the dice or whatever, to stuff consistently actually selling?
Yeah. The first like stage that I felt that was like in like 2015, maybe 16, where I was just getting more and more bands I liked that had stuff going on, bands that toured, and you know, just higher profile releases in the context of underground extreme music and stuff, and doing like split releases. You know, like I did a split release with Southern Lord, and like all these things, you know, came up. That just made me feel like, you know, I could tell things were going on. But 2020 was the biggest thing. The pandemic was the biggest thing. And, you know, it's just because everyone, you know, like fucking nationally and internationally, like the RBS show just made such waves. And, you know, just bands like Gulch and bands like Tsunami, obviously just like propelled the label to a bigger awareness, you know, which is cool. I'm still not like fucking an enormous label by any means. I mean, you look around, folks, but
it's one room. It's one room.
There aren't more rooms. There's no bathrooms. There's nothing.
Yep.
But no, it just like, you know, the amount of records I was selling and people checking out past releases, you know, like heavy stuff, and that just really, really grew after that show. Like noticeably. Like it was weird. Like it was just like, holy shit, you know. But actually, you know, even before that show though, like I remember Joseph hit me up to put out the Tsunami 7. We did it as a 7-inch first before we added their demo and made it a 12-inch.
Yeah.
But we put out their EP as like a 7-inch. I remember like it sold out in like 2 minutes, like the whole pressing. And we were texting each other like, bro, this is fucking wild.
Crazy.
Like Jesus. And that was before the RBS show. So going to the RBS show, like we knew like, damn, like this is going to be wild, but we had no idea how wild it was going to be.
How big it was going to get.
Over 2,000 people and shit. I mean, just insane. So, you know, and then obviously like Gulch exploded during the pandemic and shortly before, like after This Is Hardcore, that footage circulated, and, you know, big shout out to Joe, you know, because he put Gulch on early, and that truly, like, I was thinking about this the other day. I boiled that down. I think that's like one of the seedlings of like RBS blowing up a little bit. Is like that video put so many kids on the Gulch because it was such a wild set.
Yeah,
and they just crushed it. They always crush it, but
of
like.
course.
And I think that got eyes on Gulch, and then got like I don't know. I kind of study these things or think about them because it's fascinating to me. But I think that had a lot to do with it, which is badass. And yeah, dude. So after that show, after the footage, it's just like their EP that I put, Burning Desire to Draw Last Breath. When I put it out in 2017, like it did good. But it wasn't like, and that band was, there was buzz and hype around them, like almost from the very start.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And and it was cool, and like people in the Bay knew like this band's ferocious, like this is crazy, people in LA and shit. But yeah,
very different.
Yeah, but then like, go to 3 years later, and that record is selling way more than when it came out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Ninth, was it like the 9th pressing of it?
Yeah,
or some
I think
shit?
it's on the 9th pressing.
Oh my fucking god!
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, it's wild. So yeah, that was like the really long-winded way of saying the turning point really was like 2020, and since then the last 3 years have just been awesome. Like a really steady flow of badass bands and bands that are aware of the label now because of all the Bay Area bands.
Yeah.
And all that shit. So it's really cool, and it's in a steady place, and have some sick shit coming out this year. And stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
Is there so how who came up with the name for the label? Because it sounds like some like death metal shit or something like that.
Yeah, it was me.
It's fucking dope.
Thanks. It's interesting you think that because like, God, like when you choose a name, it's hard to like rebrand and change names. And I chose that name when I was 18, and luckily, like, yeah, I was just, full on metalhead, and just wanted something that sounded badass. Oh, you know what? No, I take that back. It's from a Light the City lyric. It's from a lyric, off this album Remains of the Gods that we put out in 2005.
Wow.
2005. And
2005.
Yeah, and it's a lyric, one of Laura's lyrics. She just says those two words in a line, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually, I've forgotten about that. That is funny.
It's a nice little paradox.
Yeah.
Creator-Destructor.
Yeah, I think over time, maybe I just didn't want to give Laura credit in my mind. Slowly, like, yeah, that was totally me.
That's obviously all me. That's so funny. So I was going to ask you, how do bands typically get put on the label, I guess? And have you ever... there's this classic like saying like, oh, no one ever gets signed off of like an email or anything like that. Yeah. Do you ever put people on like off of an email, or how do you normally put people on, I guess?
Yeah. What's funny about that is like the City with Prosthetic Records, it was probably the last era of this, like by like a couple of years, but we got signed to them by sending a fucking demo in the mail.
Wow.
And I remember when I interned there, like they got fucking hundreds of those a week.
Yeah.
They had Lamb of God, so every fucking young metal band was just sending their shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But somehow it got through, and they were like, and we got an email from EJ. We're like, what the fuck? But that literally never happens these days. It's never happened at least like physically sending something.
Yeah.
That's bananas. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even have a P.O. box anymore, so I don't even know if people try to send me anything.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, those days are over. But at this point, it's like currently, like I am always looking for new bands and young bands and stuff. And people, it's mostly word of mouth, honestly.
Yeah.
It's mostly like, yo, have you heard this band? Like, or me seeing them personally, like seeing them live, being like, holy shit, but a lot of word of mouth. Like, I give a lot of credit to Taylor Young.
Yeah.
He essentially was the pipeline fully to Scalp,
yeah,
and to Cruelty,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did he?
I don't know. And Upon Stone,
yeah,
and Upon Stone,
yeah.
Like all those records, he did, and he sent to me, and he's like, "You fuck with this?" And I was like, 100%, hell yeah. And Scalp had only played one show. Upon Stone hadn't played a show.
Yeah,
Cruelty hadn't been here yet, but obviously, they had like buzz and stuff.
Exactly.
But Taylor Young just straight up, like, such a homie. He just hit me up. He's like, yo, this would be perfect.
Dope on
for
the
Creator-Destructor. So, but my point being, like, through things like that, like friends, people involved in the scene, but sometimes I'll just like hear a band or find it through social media or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, but at this point, like I was gonna say, I'm always trying to still find like new bands, like bands that don't have a following yet, as long as they're fucking awesome, like they're sick, then I'll fuck with it and I'll give them a chance, But I'm also trying to always grow the label too, so I'm trying to put out,
Bigger
bands
stuff.
that tour a lot and bands that already have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like a hybrid. It's a weird mix to be in, but I like doing it all,
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show. So go record with Taylor Young, and maybe he'll send your shit somewhere, and you'll get signed to a label or something like that.
No, I mean it's true. If you record, if you record with someone, like Taylor,
That's
or
notable.
anything,
Yeah.
that's so connected or anything, like if it's really good, like word will get around for sure.
Of course.
But also that's not to say like, people DM me all the time and I'll listen to everything. You know what I mean? Unless it's a clearly copy and pasted thing.
Yeah.
I will not even. I'll just delete it if it's like looks like a spam thing. So don't do that. If you're in a band, don't
spam him.
If you're into a label or something, because I also get messages from bands that are like, "Yo, like we're fans of the label. We love this record," and I'm like, "Cool. Like that's a human being."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like that tells me they're not just sending this to everyone, or even if they are and they're personalizing it to every label.
Yeah.
Good on them. That's cool.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean? But yeah, so it's like I'll listen to that every time. So like if people email me the same way, like so, you can always do that. Like I don't think labels don't hate that. It's cool. It's cool, and I remember being there too. So I fully support it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Have you ever wanted to put a band on and they've been like, nah? You didn't want to do that.
Think. Like if I did, it's probably just because it's like I was too small of a label. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Which I would understand. But no one's ever been just like a dick or turned something like, I don't know. But then again, I don't think it's really rare that I approach bands I absolutely didn't know at all.
Yeah.
Or like didn't have some kind of connection through, but maybe that has happened. But like, yeah, no one's ever been a dick like that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you're not saying that like that way, but I'm trying to remember, man. I don't know. I'm not remembering anything where someone just like passed.
That's probably that's probably a really good thing.
Yeah. But I've also I've never you always kind of have to shoot for the stars, but within reason.
Yeah.
I'm not like emailing like Metallica's management being like,
Yeah.
hey, this next one.
put them on.
Yeah.
Here's a more specific question, I guess.
Yeah,
are there any like individuals in either the local scene or just in the hardcore / metal scene in general, where whatever they put out, you're like, oh, I want to have a piece of that.
Individual? Oh, like people in bands?
Yeah, like people in bands.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't come from like I want a piece of that. Like I know what you mean by that.
Yeah, of course.
I know what you mean, but like I like basically being like anything this person does, I'll fuck with.
Exactly.
If I'm a supporter or if they let me put it out.
Of course.
Like I totally know what you mean. And yeah, there's definitely people. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, God, Joseph's one of them. Like every band Joseph plays in is sick as fuck. You know what I mean? Like Big Boy included, like Field of Flames. Like there's people that play in bands where you're like, damn, like everything. And Dirt from Tsunami too. I mean, Condition 1, Lead Dream, and dude, it's just like
Tsunami
banger bands. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like everything he does is sick. Because he's one with the riff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I know I just named, half of Tsunami, but like there's other people for sure. You know what I mean? Xavier does nothing but dope shit. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, Taylor Young included.
Yeah.
I mean, goddamn, he's in so many bands and they all rule. So
totally.
Yeah.
I think that just happens when you dedicate your life to something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just spend all your time,
that
thinking of creative stuff, man.
Yeah. You put in your,
put in the
100,000 hours or whatever
man.
at this point with some of us. And, yeah, you just, get better at the stuff and people trust what you do,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about, this is more of like the nitty gritty stuff, but what's vinyl like pressings like these days? Is it?
Yeah.
I've heard it's kind of tough out there and getting vinyl pressings and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's getting better. I mean, it's always through college and afterwards for 4 years I worked at Pirates Press, making vinyl for bands. I was like a sales rep there, so I worked with like hundreds of labels and just made vinyl. So I know that world very well, and the whole time I've been doing it for like over 10 years, it's always changed. It's like oh damn, it got it's taking 6 months right now. Oh, damn, it's taking 9 months. And it's like, oh, it's back to 2. That's fucking awesome. And right now in the pandemic, it was horrible. It was like, fucking horrible for some people, like getting like 1.5 quotes, like shit like that, where you're like, well, this is pointless. Like the record's old at that point. You know what I mean? Like, with the turnaround these days of releases, but like, but yeah, I mean, now it's back down to 3 months, but also like, I've always worked with Pirates Press, and they go through GZ in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, which is like what most people use.
Sure, but I can't speak for like other plants like backed up. Like it's always been like semi-reasonable, but yeah, it could take a while sometimes. Like there's been release dates where I don't have the vinyl till like 3 months after, 4 months after, and you're like, fuck, man, like that's just a bummer. Like people have been cool about it.
Yeah,
like there's never anyone that's really an asshole about it, but it just sucks from my side.
Yeah,
being like, remember that record 3 months ago? Well, here's your pre-order.
Yeah,
so yeah. But
did that happen with like the out of pocket?
Yes.
Yes. I remember that because
exactly.
I ordered that and I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
And it was out of my mind. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, oh,
totally,
my out of pocket shit is here.
Well,
That's
luckily, like most people in the hardcore scene or extreme music in general, like they understand for the most part. You always get a few bozos that write you as if you're like Amazon or something.
Yeah.
But like. But most people understand. Like, it's out of their control. No label's just sitting there being like, let's wait a few months to send this motherfucker's order. You know what I mean? Let's just stare at it for a few months. But like, but yeah, and also it's like low stakes enough. You know what I mean? If you buy an LP, like the out of pocket 7-inch, but it's like $10. If you buy an LP and spend $30 total on everything, shipping, it's like, what are you sitting around staring at your door waiting for that record? Like life goes on. You have other records to listen to. You'll get it when you get it.
Exactly.
I think most people take that approach, which is nice,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, are there any possible plans of another Creator-Destructor Showcase type show thing?
Yeah, no, I totally want to do it. I honestly, this year I just kind of like forgot, or like I've been busy touring with the Wilhelm Scream a lot, and I did it a year ago in April.
Yep,
so not too far off from a year ago. I want to do another one, but the thing is like some of these bands have gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah,
and so it's like, it's like I wouldn't want to do it at X Bar. I'd want to do it in East Bay.
Yeah.
And that's no diss to South Bay. I'm just saying, like specifically a venue like that, I'd want to do it probably out here at a bigger spot.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think it'd just be like more to manage. You know what I mean? And all these bands are so busy, like touring and shit now, which is awesome. But last year's show was like this perfect pocket of like after the pandemic, after the whole 2020 wave, like, you know what I mean? Or no, I guess that would have been 2021 after that whole shit, because RBS was in 2021.
Yep, exactly. All the shows came back that year.
Yeah, it's all a blurry haze. That
Dude, everything's been going a
period.
million miles an hour. It's kind of crazy.
Know. Yeah. Well, it's like this black hole in everyone's lives where you're just like, oh shit, you just like skipped 2 years.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I want to do it again, and it's not too late to do it this year. I would love to. I like the whole like 2 Nights of Terror thing, or doing like more of a metal show and then a hardcore show.
Yeah,
because there's bands on the label that fit in both. So yeah, I want to do it. It's a good reminder. I should probably get on that.
Dude, I would love to be here for that one, because I remember I interviewed Scalp right before I think it was right before they left to come up here to do that. And then I remember seeing all the stuff afterwards, and I was like, "Oh, that looked fucking dope."
Nice, yeah, they killed it at that show. It was so fun. Those guys are the best, man.
Oh, for sure.
Great dudes.
Well, I mean, kind of coming down to my last couple questions, but
no worries.
You're touring full time, correct?
Pretty full time, yeah. Wilhelm goes pretty hard, so it's this year and the end of last year. It's been pretty constant.
Yeah.
So.
Does touring like pretty much full time impact? Is it a pain to run Creator-Destructor along with touring all the time, and how do you balance that out, I guess?
Oh yeah, no. My buddy Chris Gowdy helps me run mail order and stuff while I'm gone. So he comes here and listens to music by himself and probably smokes a bunch of cigarettes and stuff and hangs out and does the mail order for me and
sends everything out.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And he's awesome. And so that's what I do on tour, and then everything else can be done from the laptop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all just like, even if it's coordinating shipments or, you know, whatever the fuck it is, it's like it can all be done. I always end up having time, you know, yeah, after sound check or something sometimes, or back at the hotel, you know, usually later, or whoever's house we're staying at, like I'll take care of shit then.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
That's
gnarly. It's not like that much. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not 8 hours of work a day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
it's fun too, I bet.
yeah, or not. It's very fun, and at least not 8 hours of like computer work. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, no, it's manageable. It's been manageable. I wish it was at the point where it wasn't manageable, because then that would be, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that'd be a good
exactly.
sign, and I'd have to have more people help me with things.
100%.
But so far, yeah, it's been cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my last thing would be what are some bands that are on the label as of now that people should go and check out?
Oh, now, like, yeah,
currently, because I know there's a release coming out on Friday.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. The Spinebreaker record is coming out. The fucking long-awaited next record, called Cavern of Inoculated Cognition.
Dope name.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't mess it up right then, just saying it. It's a lot of syllables.
Oh yeah.
But it's so fucking sick. It's really, really good. And that's coming out on Friday. And then recently, the Blazing Tomb record.
Yeah.
It's right there. You want to grab that thing right there real quick? Show the folks at home. Yeah, that band from Richmond is fucking incredible. They sound like Bolt Thrower, and they're just badass. So definitely check that band out. And yeah, you know, I mean, the question was some bands to check out, or something. I mean, yeah, if you have, aside from like the obvious ones, definitely fucking check out Upon Stone if you haven't heard them. If you're a fan of metal, and specifically melodic death metal, which I'm just a sucker for.
Oh yeah,
this band is perfect, and they're so good, and they're doing a lot of exciting shit coming up. Doomsday, oh my god,
that band's awesome.
I haven't mentioned Doomsday yet. Yeah, and so I mean, you know, just such a fucking amazing band, and that record rules. So check out their EP. There's a lot more coming from them soon. And God, you know, I'm just like looking around trying to remind myself.
I'll link the Creator-Destructor website in the description of the video, and then you're gonna go on the site, and then go to artists, and then it'll give you all the artists that you should check out, which is all of them. Yeah, you could check it all out. Oh, that's funny actually. I just made, by the time this comes out, I'll have posted it, but I made like a playlist, like a Spotify playlist. I'll
with
link
like
that.
All the sickest tracks. So yeah, check that out. But yeah, man. I don't know. Check it all out. It's all ripping. I promise.
For sure. Well, thank you again, man. I
dude,
appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
and,
man. Cheers. Yeah.
Dude, until the next one, people.
Yeah.
Dude,
Peace out.